So yeah, good morning everybody. And yeah, it's already starting to kind of warm up. I mean, it's obviously warming up literally, but there's a sense of the event sort of gathering momentum and really lovely atmosphere building. So what we're going to do this morning is have a panel with the three of us, old timers. I haven't been to the Tarot cabin yet, so I don't know if front, back, or not there at all, but I'll find out soon enough. So we've got three questions each. So the first question is, what was your first contact with Taraloka? Second question, what made you want to live here? Because all three of us have lived here. Suddenly for 20 years.
Round the back.
Parami for 5 years.
Something like that.
And myself for 5 years. So we'll all talk about, well, what was the draw? Because it's a very particular decision in life, isn't it, to want to come and live in a women's retreat centre in the country. And then name one thing you got from your time here. And I'm very confident we all got lots more than one thing, but just to pull out one particular highlight from our time here. Yeah, just to give you a little bit of a flavour of something of the experiences of the three of us as people who've had very, very long-standing connections with Taraloka. And I'm sure all of you could answer these questions really beautifully, but you're getting us this morning. So we're going to have Parami first, because she was the one that had the first contact with Taraloka, then Sadanandi, because she was the next, and then myself as the newbie, relatively speaking. And I've got a bell, so after 15 minutes I'm going to ring the bell, and that will be the end of that person's time. Yeah. Oh yeah, mics. So Parami's going first. Oops, I think the other way.
I think that's right. Okay, yeah, you're picking me up. Yeah. All right, so thank you, Vijamala. That was, yeah. So when I first saw Taraloka, it wasn't Taraloka. It was Bettisfield Farm and Cornhill Farm, Bettisfield. And I'll say more tomorrow because I'm going to be talking a little bit about the past, but my memory of the first time coming was that that track seemed like really, really, really long. And I can't remember, I think I came with Sangadevi and somebody else, and I think they'd already purchased it or they were just about to sign for it. So it was the end of 84, I think, beginning of 85. Anyway, I remember driving up the track and thinking, oh my God, this is miles from anywhere. And I think I said that, and if it was Sangadevi, she said, yeah, that's why we've bought it. And I thought, okay, it says more about me than it does about Cornhill Farm. So that was my first memory. And then I have some quite strong memories of retreats in the what's the community house, which was everything at that point. So coming to that, and yeah, sitting in, I think it's now the community lounge. The shrine was in the fireplace, and we just sort of sat around there. And it was, I do remember it being very exciting because it was the first place that we'd had purchased by women and run by women. And I'll say more tomorrow about how we ended up in that position. So that's the first bit. And then, well, what kind of drove me to live here, or how was it you put it?
What made you want to live here?
What made me want to live here? Well, it was a combination of factors. This was one of them. I was living in Valencia in Spain. I'd been there for about 12, 13 years. And I'd become a public preceptor, and I'd stopped being chair of the Valencia Buddhist Centre. So there was a whole load of factors came together that made me decide to move back to the UK. And I was kind of very torn about it, to be honest, because I loved living in Valencia. I liked the heat, I liked the lifestyle, I liked the outdoor cafes and that kind of thing. Oh, and I liked the Sangha as well. They were fine. But I kind of felt like it was time to leave, partly because the person who'd become chair after me, I kind of wanted her to have the space to be how she wanted to be. And I didn't want, I was living with Sadhakara at the time, so it was just too easy to kind of not only think what I thought she wasn't doing, how I would do it, but tell her. So I didn't do that actually, but it was quite an effort. So I thought, yeah, it's time to move back. The other thing was that I was starting to find I couldn't really find a way of having a livelihood in Spain that would have been easy. So I made the decision to move back, and I was going to move back to Glasgow, which is where I'm from, in case you hadn't got that yet. And I was going to move and live in the women's community. And then not long before I moved, the women's community collapsed, basically. There wasn't a women's community. And I thought, well, I don't really want to go to Glasgow and live in a wee flat on my own. And I don't really want to set up a new community. So I thought, I don't know what I'll do. Shall I go to the LBC? Been there, done that. What shall I do? And then I was here that summer on a number of things back to back. I can't quite remember what. It might have been, that might have been the year we had the Nojo retreat here. Can't remember. Anyway, there was about 3 things back to back. So I spent most of the summer here. And it was a beautiful, glorious summer, which helps. And I hadn't long been an Anagarika. I'd become an Anagarika 2002, and this would have been 2004. And I was on some retreat or another, and I was walking from the retreat centre over to the community to meet you, I think, for tea or something, a chat, a catch up. I was walking across and I thought, I could live here. What? No way, Jose. I am not living in the middle of nowhere. I'm a city girl, etc. But between the retreat centre and the community, something had kind of firmed up. So I said to Sadhnandi, had this really weird thought, Sadhnandi, as I was walking across the courtyard. I've no idea where it came from, but I wondered about maybe moving here. And you said, sounds good. That was it. That was your response. So then I couldn't get it out of my head, really. So I knew virtually everybody in the community at that point. There were a lot of good friends of mine living here. People I'd lived with before in other contexts. And so, I don't know, it just seemed like the thing to do. And it felt strangely very connected with having become an Anagarika. And again, I'm not entirely sure I could articulate why that was. It was something about wanting to stay in a community setting, but also it was something to do with acknowledging that although I'm a city girl, that isn't necessarily the best bit of me in a way, and that a retreat centre would give me a different kind of set up to live in. And it was quite it was a beautiful summer, and I think it was something about thinking I could actually live in nature. Oh my God. I'm sorry, but I am one of the least nature loving people that I know. I mean, I love it in the abstract, but in reality, it's full of creepy crawlies. It's cold. It's dirty. There's nothing going for it, really, except that it's nature. That's everything that's going for it. And I think I had quite a revolution within myself, a revelation and a revolution that actually I was learning. How am I doing?
You've got loads of time for another 8 minutes.
Oh my God.
You haven't mentioned the nun.
Oh yeah,
And
thank you.
Damarati
Damarati was a nun. I don't remember that at all.
I'll tell you the story in a minute.
I did. He was involved in it somehow, wasn't he?
You told him what happened,
Yeah.
and he said, "Oh, well, that's it then."
Yeah, that's right. Maybe I'll give a bit of background context. Thank you, Sadhnandi. When I was wee and growing up, I wanted to be a nun. Some of you have heard this before. And I wasn't sure what kind of nun. I mean, it was a Catholic nun, that was clear. But I had two aunties who were nuns, and one of them was, this was a long time ago, it was in the 1950s, the 60s. She was behind the grill. She was in an enclosed order. And I loved the fact she was in an enclosed order. And we used to go and visit her at Christmas and Easter. I just thought this was magical. And she very much saw her life as dedicated to prayer for the sake of all beings. I mean, she might not have used that term, but the order she was in prayed. So people used to bring things they wanted to be prayed for. I thought that was magic. But my other auntie, her sister, was a missionary, a medical missionary in Africa. And I quite liked the idea of being a missionary. And I couldn't decide which kind of nun that I wanted to be. And then I stopped believing in God, which put a spanner in the whole thing. So there was something about revisiting that sense of being a nun, which was partly about becoming an anagarika. And something about here fed into that. That's right. I kind of had this, I don't know if any of you have read or seen In This House of Breed. If you, I mean, I read it every year, once a year. The movie's not so good, but Faye Dunaway's very beautiful in it. But that's not really the point about nuns. So we leave that to the side. But anyway, in this book, it's somebody who she joins an enclosed order, and she's been a very worldly person beforehand. She's been CEO or something quite high up in the business, and she goes into this order. She really struggles with a lot of things. And I think part of me really related to that, like the nun in me, sounds like a song, the nun in me struggled quite a lot with the rock star me, the wannabe rock star. And there was quite a kind of conflict between those two. One of the beauties of Buddhism is that you don't have to choose. You can be a missionary and a contemplative, which is pretty wonderful. But anyway, back to here. On that day when I was walking across the courtyard, I was imagining myself with my robes swishing as I walked across. You've reminded me of that, because I think I told you that at the time. I could see myself, actually, to be frank, I don't really like robes, but anyway, I was swishing across the courtyard in my robes with my rosary bead. And I thought there was a strong pull to kind of give that side of myself a bit more power or something. So Taraloka really worked in that way. It really did. I mean, I was still out and about a lot, but yeah. So what Taraloka gave to me was the next question, wasn't it? Kind of starts to connect with that, because it gave me a space, and sadly Andy teases me about this every now and again. I was in various rooms when I lived here. My favourite room was upstairs in the community with a window that's at this side of the building as you're looking. And I had a nice chair, and I used to sit and watch the courtyard and people going in and out of retreats. I don't know what it was about that. It gave me this extraordinary sense of well-being. And I think it was because people were I could see that these women going into the retreat centre were really getting something from this. So even if I wasn't on the retreat, you'd see people leave much more open and beautiful than when they'd arrived. And there was something about that. So Taraloka gave me that chair in that room. Well, actually, they didn't. I had to leave it when I left. But oh, actually, no, I think I took it away with me. I don't remember. If I did, I left it in Birmingham. Anyway, so it gave me that. The other thing it gave me was a stable place to come to when I left Spain, because it was quite a big move for me to leave there. I was leaving a community people. I mean, Parami and I had lived together for about, oh God, like 18 years or something by that point. I was leaving very good friends. I was leaving a situation that I'd helped set up, etc. And it was quite a wrench. So Taraloka gave me a very safe landing space for that. Partly the people that held that, but also the other thing was I'd just become a public preceptor, which, you know, I had no idea really what that meant or anything. Still working on it. And something about being here, I could go in to visit Sadhanandi or Kulaprabha at the time and Suchita, vague, particularly, and kind of go, oh my God, I don't know what this is about. And, you know, things that would come up that I had no idea. I'd have Damadina on the phone and Sad and Andy in our bedroom. It gave me a lot of stability, I think. And I became international order convener while living here. So one of the things it gave me was a space to decide whether I really wanted to do that or not. And again, a lot of conversations with people, but also something about feeling very centered in my practice while I lived here meant that I could make that choice very cleanly. And then that meant I had to move to Birmingham, which was lovely because I had lovely neighbours in the flat that I moved into. A couple of them are here. But it was quite a wrench as well leaving here. I really didn't want to leave. Banty made me. He really thought as order convener it would be good if I was in Birmingham so that I could start helping to look for what became Adhisthana, which is what I did. I moved to Birmingham. But I felt like this was a fabulous landing place to come back from Spain. It gave me a huge amount of space. You were very generous. The community very generously helped support me economically so that I could do the things that I was doing. I could go and come back because there was enough of a stable community for it. Didn't really have a huge effect, me leaving and coming back, because I was traveling a lot. And it gave me that sort of amazing spaciousness, and it gave the nun some space. So I'm incredibly grateful to the people who lived here at that time, particularly Sadnandi and others. And also I'm incredibly grateful that this place existed, that I could kind of come back into it. And while I was in Spain, I'd come virtually every year here to do a retreat, at least once a year. Damadina and I did, we did some great retreats. We did the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where we had everybody lying on the floor while we read them the bardos. We did lots of Milarepa retreats. We had people acting out the stories of Milarepa. We'd had some good fun retreats here. So yeah, it gave me a fabulous kind of transition period from being very full on in Spain to becoming very full on in the whole wide world. So I'm very grateful for that. Yeah. Have I got time for one more little?
That is immaculate. That is exactly 15 minutes.
Okay.
Well done.
Leave it there then.
But if we've got time at the end, we could.
Yeah.